In this bulletin, new case areas recorded in Suva. Don't believe false prophets. And Fiji Airways arranges outbound flights. Good afternoon. The Ministry of Health has announced 35 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong, who is in quarantine, says this is the latest from the record-breaking surge over the last few days. 5 cases are linked to the incident management team. 18 are from the CWM cluster, 1 from Navy, 1 from Nawakanandi, and 1 case is linked to the Daumbati cluster. 9 cases are currently under investigation. Cases under investigation include 2 from Lami, 2 from Valilevu, 2 in Cornivia, Nausori, and 1 case from Turek Suva. Dr. Fong says the latest daily case numbers are unsettling news for many, and they should be, as this is highly transmissible and deadly disease.
There has never been a higher level of risk in the Lami Nausori containment area than today. Everyone knows it, and everyone must act accordingly through the good health practices we have advocated from day one of this outbreak.
The Health Ministry has warned that while the Central Division is seeing the biggest spike in case numbers, we could see severe outbreaks in many other parts of Fiji if we are not careful. PS4 Health Dr. James Fong says they've previously employed mobile screening teams to great effect, but the scale of the outbreak now requires a different approach, which is part of their mitigation phase. If individuals test positive, they will be placed under home isolation with groceries and essential household items provided. If they develop a severe illness, they will be transported to a hospital.
Please know this, we are guided by 2 objectives. Keep already infectious and potentially infectious people safely away from the public, and provide life-saving care to those who do develop a severe case of COVID-19. We will now be maintaining our stationary screening clinics and saving our mobile teams to do contact tracing, screen in areas of concern, and deploy to homes that report individuals with COVID-like symptoms.
Dr. Fong adds it is extremely important that people understand the need to carefully manage movement from contained areas to uncontained areas. The PS says they sympathize with people's need to relocate, and they are working hard to develop protocols that can allow movement without risking further transmission of the virus. The patient who died with kidney failure while contracting COVID-19 on Tuesday morning presented late at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital, health officials say. This comes as claims made on social media by the deceased family members that he was denied dialysis treatment because the machine was not working. Fiji's chief medical advisor says the hospital has access to functional dialysis machines within the hospital, as well as the new National Kidney Treatment Center in Nandera, and decision for dialysis is always made with consideration to the type of treatment required, the risk associated with the proposed treatment, and the physical status of the patient to tolerate the treatment. Dr. Tundravu reassured that they took all effort to provide the necessary care to the deceased under COVID-safe protocols, and unfortunately, the patient eventually succumbed to the disease. The Ministry of Health is calling on Fijians to not listen to false prophets and pseudo-experts who say that COVID-19 cannot harm them. Dr. James Fong says these false prophets and pseudo-experts are lying, and information shared by them will lead at-risk Fijians into intensive care units. Dr. Fong says this can lead to the worst-case scenario, which is death. He adds there is nothing encouraging about the low numbers of severe disease and death recorded so far.
While we continue to publish the location of new clusters, no one should base their adherence or lack of adherence on whether they are near a cluster or a red zone or whether they're in a green zone. We are dealing with community transmission. That means the exact source of every case is not known. The person sitting next to you could have COVID. The person you speak to could have COVID.
The Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission has issued warnings to 54 businesses for non-compliance. FCCC CEO Joel Abraham says this comes as their team has completed a total of 2,305 inspections from the 20th of April. Abraham says 11 instances of alleged price gouging were identified during the course of inspections, and each case is currently under investigation. He says this includes cases regarding the increase in the price of sugar, adding that the complaints were attended to immediately, and as a result, 2 traders have been warned for prosecution. Abraham says FCCC officers have also been engaged in the surveillance of stock and supply for essential items, as well as enforcing COVID-19 health and safety measures. He says they noted 97.7% compliance amongst traders, and as for the remaining 2.3% who are not in compliance, 54 warnings have been issued for prosecution. Fiji Airways will operate a number of special flights between this Sunday and Wednesday, the 30th of June, to enable foreigners and approved persons to depart Fiji. In a statement, the Fiji Airways says the special flights are approved by the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Civil Aviation and will replace previously scheduled international passenger repatriation flights that are now cancelled. Meanwhile, it says Fiji Link is working through the requirements of the domestic repatriation protocols by the Ministry of Trade and Transport. Fiji Airways says once these are finalized, domestic repatriation flights in line with strict government protocols will be announced publicly. It adds that dedicated freighter services will continue to ensure vital export and import supply chains for Fiji remain intact. Up ahead, Fijiana prepares for Oceania Sevens. And New South Wales Blues wins first round of State of Origin. Welcome back. Playing against the 2 best teams in the women's sevens rugby, Australia and New Zealand, is critical for the Fijiana Sevens team on course to the Tokyo, Japan Olympic Games. Fijiana will go against the 2 powerhouses in the upcoming Oceania Sevens tournament on the 25th to the 27th of this month. Head coach Sayasi Fuli says playing against Australia and New Zealand will determine a lot for them.
We have to execute what we have been doing. It will help the management, especially the coaches and myself, to gauge the individual players' performances in units and how we can balance and select the right combination going towards the Tokyo Olympics.
Online chess competitions have been a boost for local chess players. Chess has been going online since the first wave of the pandemic, allowing competitions to run as scheduled. One of the added benefits for local players is having to face a number of renowned players globally through the Global Chess League. Fiji Chess Federation Secretary Goro Arvind says it is an ideal learning curve for all players.
We are getting opportunities to play chess players who we probably would have never played if chess wasn't online, because if you're face-to-face, then you have to worry about things like air tickets, accommodation, and then all those things. The logistics are like wiped out, and you can just actually play online.
New South Wales thrashed Queensland Maroons with a 56 win in last night's State of Origin clash, with former Fiji Mbati rep Daniel Saifiti scoring a try for the Blues. A clean pass with Nathan Cleary in the 63rd minute gave Saifiti a much-needed push to break through the Maroons' defense and score under the post. Here are the highlights. Onto the weather, mainly fine over most places, cool at night. That's FBC News Now. Join us for our 1-hour major bulletin at 7 p.m. And be sure to download the FBC app to access the latest in news, sports, and live radio broadcasts from any of our 6 FBC radio stations. Stay safe and good afternoon.